feather, light, work, asking, answer, accepting, honoring, all we are, earth to star.
I had a flash of insight a couple days ago, and I would love to share it with you. And it is all about the art of subtlety. And I think subtlety is an open door to accessing my gifts, your gifts probably, and gifts of insight, gifts of seeing, gifts of clairaudience, clairsentience. You know, I'm new at this study of understanding how to see as my soul sees, how to see through the eyes of my higher self. And with this open door to accessing that, I am excited by the new pathway that is unfolding as I see the way my receptivity to subtle energies in my life is creating stepping stones to bring all these awesome gifts into my life. And some of those gifts for me, the clearest ones that I see right now, are messages from my higher self, messages that seem to be beyond me, that come as rays of crystalline truth, and they come as a beautiful melody that I can, cherish and shape into a song. They come in the form of hints that my dad in heaven is with me and, accessible to me if I call that in, if I invite that in. So let's talk about subtlety, because subtlety has a lot of different flavors. And if we can grasp those flavors of the ways subtlety shows up even in our earth walk with our five senses, we can then use that as an open door to accessing these greater insights that come from our greater self, our higher self, our true state of existence that is on the other side of the veil.
We all essentially are radio towers. The way our system works is we're very, very sensitive to many different frequencies that are coming in. And a lot of them, when they're coming from super high and super etheric and on the other side of what we consider the veil. So the veil is the understanding that there is more than what we're experiencing in our basic five senses. So on the other side of the veil is this extension of what we're experiencing in this very solid carbon reality that is like, it's like when you walk into the house, but when you're outside the house, you can see the whole house. And then when you walk in the house, you can see the inside of the house, but maybe you couldn't hear the music that was playing on the inside of the house when you were outside of the house. So I'm not sure if that's the best example, but it's the understanding of knowing there's more beyond what you're experiencing. And then the more we acknowledge that, the more we get quieter and more receptive to that understanding, the louder these subtle experiences are becoming, and the louder that they are, the more part of our experience they become. I've been working on this for about 20 years, and I've kind of experienced this a little bit more in my most recent, I would say in the past 5 to 7 years. That's when I really started to dive into the practice of mediumship. And I just happened to be with the teachers who explained this craft and this ability as being completely capable of all of us, because we all have this radio tower ability. We all have this ability to receive this kind of information. And so they were setting this up in the way to get quiet. And it was definitely a layer higher in a level of self-mastery, because not only can you be more receptive to the information that's coming in from the other side and from other sources of energies that are not necessarily in a physical body, but it's good life practice in general to be able to slow down, to be able to experience life in a way. I feel that on this plane, in this reality, there is so much stimulation. There's so much noise. There's a little bit of chaos. We can be naturally just drawn to being a little bit louder, and we have media, and we have cars, and we have all sorts of really loud noises that really can just unintentionally drown out all of these subtle frequencies or subtle communications. Once we understand that we're capable of becoming aware of this and understanding this, we choose, or can then have the option to choose, to put ourselves in environments that are much quieter, much softer, to help our mastery of this process. And therefore, that space allows us to understand ourselves a little bit more, because there's less going on in that space. We're choosing to come away from traffic. We're choosing to come away from media. We're choosing to be alone with ourselves. So in the same breath of being open and available to things that are subtle and not of this intense or loud scale, we're also able to hear ourselves on a better level too, because I often feel that we compete with all of these other sounds, and sometimes lose. Sometimes we lose out to the media or to the traffic or to these other things. So when we choose to put ourselves in this space, and the intention is maybe around receiving more subtle frequencies, interacting with spirits, interacting with elementals and beings in the animal kingdom, and we're dropping into not only being able to pick up on other sounds or communications that aren't as loud, we're also dropping into this new way of receiving information with more than just our ears. Now we're starting to receive these subtle informations through our body, our clairsentience, our knowing, our claircognizance, our heart space, telepathy, and all of these different ways of receiving information start to click and work together. And they start to paint an even more in-depth snapshot of the information that's coming in.
So that's where we're going. We're going toward mediumship. We're going toward accessing our clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance. That's where this subject matter is leading us. And this same study can help us to live a beautiful, brilliant, day-to-day life here in the world. And I'll show you what I mean. So let's start there. How is this information about the art of subtlety, the practice of subtlety, tuning into subtle energy, going to bless us up in our daily lives? Well, we might kiss someone with a butterfly kiss. Gentle eyelashes. That's the subtlety. And sometimes it's beautiful to kiss someone good and hard and substantiate it that way. Sometimes we can speak in just a gentle whisper. And that voice might be the sensitive approach that gets through to the person that we're communicating with. Whereas a big, loud, roaring yell might create a dissonance and a distaste that distances us from the objective. So subtlety can help us in every aspect of our lives. People want to lean into gentleness so they can hear it. Someone made a comment on our Feather Lightwork episode recently. He said, "That guy talks so slow I could build a house by the time he finishes a sentence." That didn't hurt my feelings. That's just the way people see things. They want to go fast through life. They want to run straight to the grave with their high speed. I know that ego trip of impatience too. And I work on that. I try to go extra slow sometimes. I find when I speak slowly, the message comes with greater articulation, and a person, again, might surrender and lean into that. We're living in a world that is loud, like you say, and it's kind of a hard competition sometimes to get a voice in. I also have a soft-spoken voice, so I'm no match for the bar scene. I don't have any place of belonging in there. I go in there and I'm just quiet as a mouse because I'm blasted with all these other noises. I don't know how to find my footing in there. Other places I can find an audience. Tonight we hosted an open mic event and it was so special. We spoke on the subject of subtlety. I had a really engaged audience that was so kind to give me their generous listening. And that allowed me to access something deep inside myself, a gem for all of us. We don't really talk about our circles. But they bring me a lot of self-respect. We gather around these fires and we sit in an all-night long gathering, connecting, sharing space, holding sacred tobacco, calling in our ancestors, our benevolent ancestors, to support us on our earth walks. And we have the pleasure of witnessing each other, holding prayers for ourselves, and we substantiate those prayers with smoke. We see our prayers, we send our prayers up in smoke, and we see our prayers go out into existence that way. I mentioned already I'm a fan of subtlety, and my prayers are usually subtle. I lean in the direction of my choosing like that. I do like to hold tobacco in my hands, but only in a ceremonial setting do I smoke tobacco. I've even been past a chanupa. Chanupa is summarized as a peace pipe. It's the merger of divine masculine and feminine in a certain way. It's a continuation of the legacy of White Buffalo Calf Woman. And it has ancient heritage and has a new way. It represents direct connection to source. And sometimes when the willow that loads that bowl in the chanupa comes my way, it's burned out. And so I receive the subtle energy of it. I breathe in the essence of it. The other day I was sitting in one of these circles and I had a thought of my Uncle Rob who passed. His brother is my dad, and it's almost like a family reunion on the other side of the veil between the two of them, and I got to join them in that family reunion on the other side. And I had this kind of like name drop my dad there. And in the instant when I recited that name on the other side, I felt this inhalation yawn from out of nowhere from the other side. And I could feel that subtle thing become substantial, and really recognize the presence of my dad with me in that moment. It's not only about me and my self-respect. It seems like my self-respect might be an open door to respecting those loved ones in my life on both sides, connecting, communing. Yeah, sure enough, I find myself in a room full of people who I love and respect, showing me respect now, listening, tuning into their voices inside and my voice audibly speaking. So it was in one of those circles. Actually, I feel like those circles, for whatever reason, they almost like prepare me for a crystallization of a beautiful thought into the shape of a song, like a mantra and a melody to remind me of the things that I stand for as virtues, things that I'm calling in, beloved companion, friendship, chosen family. And it was in one of those circles that, for whatever reason, the sliver of thought, the trail of frequency that, inspired and crystallized in the form of that song I just sung and also this one. And sometimes I have these notions that these songs are going places, like these songs are supposed to like bring me to a place of a room like this and, connect in a heart space with friends and family like this. And sometimes I wonder why that isn't happening yet or whatever. Like I wonder where my visions are gonna manifest, and I have kind of like a limiting thought that it ought to be a certain way. Why isn't it that way yet or whatever? And here I am in this room full of beautiful people tapping in, connecting in this sacred place behind the scenes, in that deep place in the innermost. Feels like the ultimate manifestation, the ultimate manifestation of possibility for even better, even more true to home, true to source, home with a capital H, source with a capital S, than I knew was possible. Of recording this next song with my band, Cosmic Butterflies, in a studio, and the recording is so beautiful. So in my humility, I'll play it in the plain old way I would play it to my kids now, but I invite you to imagine it made substantial with some extra love put in it. And I hope before I sing it that each one of us can check in with what we have to carry and what we have, those torches we have to pass forward, and those little sparkles of light, those little sparks of the divine that might be touching our hearts, that might be touching our minds, landing somewhere in our bodies. What we might crystallize, I can feel your heartbeat pumping through your chest, and it makes me feel close to you. Your vibrant eyes smiling into mine, and it lets me know we both feel close. I can smell the roses showing me to go slow, and it feels like home with your hand to hold. Ooh, I can taste cacao warm in my mouth, and I feel your kiss on And it feels so right. I could cry. So right. I could cry. So right. I could cry. And it feels so right. I could cry. Thank you.
Feather, light, work, asking, answer, accepting, honor, all we are, earth to